So I'll be honest, Longsword has kind of been done dirty in this title update. Well, to be honest, there's quite a few weapons that fall into that category. Sword and Shield and Greatsword of course got the majority of the love. Regardless, there is still a new Longsword build, one for solo play and one for multiplayer. These are two completely different sets, however I will include both in this video. I will save the multiplayer one till last, and to be honest I won't spend too much time going over it. The multiplayer set is also technically the best DPS for Longsword in the game so far, however only when certain conditions are met, which are quite difficult to get. So if you're a solo player like me and you want the most consistent optimal damage of Title Update 3, you're in the right place. Okay, so this is the new build. I'll run through each piece of equipment and then I'll show you the decoration slots. So first things first, in terms of your weapon, Artian is still of course king. In Title Update 3, Longsword has not got a new weapon, it was only Greatsword and Sword and Shield. So nothing changes here, you can feel free to use something like the Seregios or the Laggy Longsword if you like it. But yeah, Artian's still king, you're going to just want to choose whichever element counters the monster you're fighting. So if you're fighting against Omega, you're going to want to use Lightning element. So you would have heard in the intro, but Longsword really hasn't got anything this title update. In fact, we're only going to end up using one piece of the Savage Omega set, and I'll explain that shortly. So in this set, we actually go back to using two pieces of Zoshir. On the helmet, we get Agitator, a super useful skill on Longsword, and a point of recovery speed, which is going to pair nicely with the set bonus. If you didn't know, the Zoshir set bonus basically gives you extra health regeneration, so even when you don't have a red bar on your health, you're still going to naturally recover. It's just nice comfort. Also on the helmet, we get a 3 slot, a 2 slot, and a 1 slot, very useful. This set is also going to go with a 2-piece Arc Tempered Raidao set. Doing this will also activate Arc Tempered Raidao's bonus, which moderately extends the activation time of the latent power skill. Now we do end up maxing this skill out, which I'll show you in a second, but effectively when latent power is active, we're going to get up to 50% affinity and reduce stamina depletion, which isn't as important, but the 50% affinity is crazy. This is also the reason this set is able to get up to its maximum crit during full uptime. The arms are then when we use the new piece of Title Update 3 equipment with the Savage Omega Vambraces. Built in naturally on these we get Agitator and 1 level of Divine Blessing, but what's really nice about these, we also then get the 3 slot and 2 slot decoration. Now again, I already discussed in the intro, but I will go over the set bonus a bit later on when I show you a multiplayer based set. But all you need to know is the Savage Omega set bonus only takes effect when you're in multiplayer or playing with support hunters. Now me being someone who likes to primarily play the game solo, that set isn't going to do much for me. And so unless you're fully trying to capitalise on the multiplayer bonus, it's not worth going for more than one piece. And then likewise with the regular Omega set, you do get good bonus in your elemental attack, however the condition for activating it is quite annoying and effectively relies on you constantly taking damage, which I wouldn't recommend for most players. Moving on, we then have the Arc Tempered Ray Waste. This is what maxes out our latent power to level 5, and we also get 2 pieces of maximum might built in. No decoration slots, but those skills are more than adequate for what we need. And then finishing up with the core build with the Numinous Greaves Beta, which is Zoshir. Counter Strike, a great skill for Longsword. Recovery speed builds nice into the Zoshir set bonus, and Elemental Absorption is a little bonus. Again, really good slots on this, I'll show you in a second. In fact, let me just show you now, because we will discuss the charms separately in a second. So you can see the full skill list on the right hand side of the screen now. Key things to note. We get Agitator up to level 3. This takes us up to the crit chance cap when activated. In our 2 slots we use some counter jewels to maximise counter strike. This gives us a lot of raw attack when we take damage while doing things such as Ire Slash. 3 quick sheath jewels, it's a must for any longsword build. Of course it's going to speed up the rate in which we can sheath our weapon. Again for Ire Slash this is needed. We throw a chain jewel in which gives us level 1 of burst. Getting this skill online is the most important thing. We don't need to go heavier on it, just having it active gives us the attack and element boost we need. 1 counter attack jewel to give us a level of Adrenaline Rush. Once again, more raw attack when the condition is met, which can be activated by using Foresight Slash, which is why it's so beneficial for Longsword. And for our last 2 slot we go for a maximum might jewel to max that out to level 3. Once again, this gives us 30% crit chance when our stamina is kept full. Now that leaves us with the talisman. So you'll notice here, I'm not even using a max rarity talisman. In fact, I still haven't found one that I prefer over what you're currently seeing. So mine comes with 3 handicraft and a weakness exploit. It just helps keep my sharpness maximum at white the whole fight, and the bonus weakness exploit isn't needed, but it's just a little bonus to help us with our crit chance while we're not at our maximum uptime. In an ideal world, you'll want a rarity 8 talisman that has +3 attack as well as a weapon decoration slot. Ideally, you're going to want to use a custom talisman so you can get the extra 1 slot decoration to maximize quick sheath. But if you really don't have anything yet, you can use the basic talismans that give extra weakness exploit, agitator, attack, adrenaline rush, or burst. These are all really good. Likewise, I haven't max upgraded mine, but you can use the quick sheath talisman, which would then allow you to replace the quick sheath jewels with more comfort if you prefer. But yeah, if I was to make a build based on RNG, I think a lot of you would find that challenging to actually put the build together. I mean, myself included, I don't have the relevant charm yet. So yeah, we'll keep it basic. Now, if you want to run the multiplayer variation of this build, which is technically the highest DPS possible for Longsword, you want to use 4 pieces of Omega up here, and for the legs go with the Arc Tempered Oofduna legs. We still get a really nice selection of skills. There's nice defensive comforts with the inbuilt Divine Blessing, and for the remaining 3 1-slots I like to go for stun resistance, super helpful when fighting Omega. But yeah, you can see all the decorations here if you want to pause and put them in. But yeah, just for the utmost clarity, this set only works while in multiplayer or using support hunters. The set effect will not trigger in a single player setting and doesn't work alongside your Palico. If you don't know what the Savage Omega set bonus does, basically you're going to get opportunities in which your attack or affinity get drastically buffed when the condition is met. Basically, periodically you're going to get a ring around the player. When you are close to other players or when they're in range of your ring, you're going to get an affinity bonus. However, if there are no players around, you get an attack buff. And the reality is, in order for this set to surpass anything else for DPS, you need to get both buffs. Now, it's much easier to get the affinity buff because of course you're going to be near other players, especially if you're hitting the back legs of Omega, but getting the attack buff can be a little more tricky and requires you to go out of your way in some situations. Only when you get the balance right of both buffs will this set overtake anything else in terms of damage potential. But yes, technically this is the strongest build in the game when conditions are met, and that clause is super important. For this version of the multiplayer build, you'll notice that I put weakness exploit decorations in for that extra crit chance, because if we are getting the attack buff as well, it serves quite nice in between. However, if you're going to run this build regardless and you notice you're getting the affinity buff way more often, you can swap these weakness exploit decos out for more raw attack damage. Play it by ear a little bit. Either way, your damage is going to be high and it will be small differences. Not too much has changed for Longsword this patch, and so if you don't really want to go farm Savage Omega, to be honest, you don't need to. But if you want to keep on top and have the most active up-to-date build, then hopefully you found this helpful. When Arc Tempered New Udra releases later this title update, I'll make sure to cover any changes to the build if they are applicable. With the base Omega set primarily affecting the Greatsword, and with the Savage Omega set further buffing the sword and shield in particular, if you'd like to see me cover both of those builds, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Alright, but that'll be all for now. Thanks for watching.